I had to first realize what I was doing that was giving you a negative about me, that I didn't love
Perception, yeah.
you or had no care about you. That for me was hard. I'm like, oh, how could that even happen? But I had
Yeah.
to look at myself. Well, how have I been responding? How have I been available? How have I nurtured this relationship? Especially we're family, and to me, a family is should be a close relationship. I know it's not for everybody, and I'm still working on some of those areas of my family that have kind of slipped away. But I desire to have that closeness again. So that was the first thing, and that was me, because I get to control how I respond to my family members, the people that God has put around my life, my friends, my neighbors, whatever. So that's just about me. I can't expect everyone else to change so that
Right.
I can like them or interact with them or whatever. So that was the first thing, was figuring out how I was putting off a vibe that was not approachable. And that was hard for me to realize.
Chasm between us as this room and what you felt for me. You'd love to tell me what I'm not, I'll never be.
Hello, good morning, everybody. How's it going? My name's Bonnie Violet. I'm a trans femme genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, digital chaplain, and you are at Splintered Grace. You are at Splintered Grace. Maybe I had to remind myself that. And this is my lovely co-host.
Hey, sorry about that. That just gave me a little chuckle. My name is Tina Frank, and I'm a mature conservative Christian who follows the teachings of Jesus Christ. Thanks for joining us today. So,
Woohoo.
we didn't have much of a title for you guys, so I think maybe you guys are thinking, what are you guys even talking about today? Or maybe you thought we weren't even going to be here, but we thought it might be a good opportunity for us to talk about some of the different seasons of life that we've been in. I think our seasons in our life changes over time based on our circumstances in the world, but I think also we have spiritual seasons as well. And so Bonnie and I thought we might just talk about a few of those seasons, or as many as we can in the 45 minutes that we have. And maybe even field some questions from you guys in regards to our seasons, or have you share a season that you might be in right now that we can all gain wisdom from. So thanks for joining us this morning.
Yes, and good morning, Charlie.
Hi.
Charlie's joined us and saying good morning.
Yay. So, Bonnie, I think, if it's all right with you, I think you
Mhm.
just started a brand new season, didn't you?
Yeah, I just moved into my place in Idaho,
Woohoo!
finally. Yeah. So I moved in not yesterday, I guess Tuesday. Tuesday I flew in. So yeah, I'm excited about it. It still feels a little surreal after, traveling around for 18 plus months,
Oh my
not
God.
having a official like home. So it's cool. Yeah, it's cool. It's still a little surreal, but I'm happy to be here for sure.
Yeah, that's so cool. I can't wait to see how your opportunities are going to start to change and shift and bloom. I believe that we should bloom where we're planted. And so I'm
Yeah.
excited to see that.
Yeah, and well having and like do you have to be planted to bloom? Probably.
Well,
I'm
not necessarily. I feel like the last 18 months on the
yeah.
season that you were in, where you were traveling around, I think you bloomed there as well. Didn't you find out a bunch of things about yourself while you were traveling around for 18 months?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean it was definitely like a big journey. I think there's still a lot to kind of process. I feel like that's kind of where I'm at in this like part of my journey. I think, I've been there's for a while I've just been like eager to just get to this space that I can stop. And so in some
Hmm.
ways I feel like I've been kind of anticipating it a little bit. I don't know that I've been planning for it real well. Uh, but so like now it's here and I'm like, okay, like now what? Because I do feel like a little bit of my traveling and a little bit of my journey the last 18 months has really been because I've been seeking, I've been
Mm,
seeking a lot. I
yeah.
was seeking where do I want to be in the long game? What is it that I like what does my career look like? What does my community look like? All these sorts of things was kind of
Yeah.
exploring, and I've said yes to a lot of things.
Huh.
And I feel like I've done a lot, I've created a lot, and I'm feeling like I need to discern what I have energy for, because I do feel like I have been kind of feeling a little depleted when it comes
Yeah.
to having the energy for everything that's happening in my life right now.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm excited to kind of also, even though I I'm I'm scared, like I don't know if I'm scared. I'm like I worry about like cutting the wrong things out. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But
Yeah.
I'm also feeling like there's a lot of things I feel like I'm half-assing, or that I'm not, it's like because you can only do so much, and so
Right. Right.
I feel like I can only go so deep, or the quality is only so like dot 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 whatever, and it's all been well and good, but I think there's an element of wanting to go deeper and wanting to um, just I guess increase the quality of many things in my life. And I think in order to do that, I need to be able to take the time and the focus. Because even if I think, oh, I'm just going to go do this over here and that over there and this over here, and I don't put a lot of effort into it, it still is time and energy, and that could potentially be put into something else. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what I honestly don't know how I'm going to cut things back, but I do know that I need to kind of figure that out.
And I love what you just said because I found that to be true in my own life when I've had season change. One thing I found is that season changes aren't always notable until after the change happens. And I'm just curious because I found in my own life that every time I've been in a season and I realized that I've transitioned to a new season, I realized that that season I just came out of was necessary
Hmm.
for me to transition to the new season. Have you found that? I know you're just now transitioning and you've just been able to pinpoint that, but do you feel like the season that you've just been on and the previous seasons before that season have all kind of prepared you for the next one coming up?
Yeah, definitely. And I'll speak a little bit more to that. But Charlie was also sharing that she's like, get the worry about cutting the wrong things in life. I'm in a major life change, and that's my hesitation of cutting out the wrong things or people. Yeah, because, I think because I value um, so much, and, I have such a desire to have new experience with life, to have satisfaction and contentment in new ways for
Mhm.
myself, and to connect differently. Yeah, and it's like, so what is it what is it that's going to get me to that place? So I definitely resonate with that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's all made sense, and I feel like a lot of the last 18 months in particular was just a lot of like information seeking, right?
Mm.
A lot of like kind of exploration and figuring out what kind of fits what, I guess what just kind of, I don't know, I think it's just been kind of an exploration, and now I think it's just time to look at all that information, look at all that experience that I had over the last 18 months, and even prior to that, and really
Yeah,
kind of think, okay, so now all this is happening, what is it that I want to kind of focus my energy on,
yeah, yeah,
and so for me, I feel like it's time to do kind of like an inventory process of just kind
yeah,
of looking at what assets do I have, what things am I lacking, and how can I kind of balance it out to some degree. Um, and so I feel like that's kind of where I'm at. And for me, I feel like being stopped long enough to do that, um, because I do still anticipate a lot of travel, and I don't. It's interesting how I don't know that my life will look all that different,
yeah,
um, because I think I'll still be traveling and still be open to doing a lot of things, but there does seem something to having a home, at least, even if I'm there only a couple of days a month or something.
yeah, yeah. I get that. Now, have you had any things that have changed in your spirit as well during these seasons changes? I totally get that right now you're just assessing and kind of doing an
Mhm.
inventory because I've had that. I feel that as well when I transition and I realize, oh my gosh, I've just made a transition. What am I keeping? What am I getting rid of? What are my new goals? Redefining those things.
Yeah.
And I found that it's not only a tangible, but it's also in my spirit life as well. So are you feeling that as well?
Mhm. Ye- yes, And yes, I am. And I think in a different way. I think for me, there's my intuition, which I think to me is kind of like how God speaks to me or how I connect with God or spirit or, like the divine, however way I feel like I want to call it that day. But I feel like just getting to the point of being able to trust my trust that intuition, and hush the other parts of my mind or other people's mouths or whatever, and really try to stay true to what that thing is and just trust it. Like even if it's like, because I think trusting myself
Mm,
um, has been something that's been a challenge for me. I think oftentimes I've put that onto God. I'm like, God, you tell me what to do, which is part of that, right?
right.
Or can the people around me tell me, affirm me, point me in the direction, whatever. And so I think there's an element of like, or in my mind or my head kind of getting in the way. So it's like coming to Idaho. There's something deep within me that's been pulling me here for a while,
Yeah.
even though in so many ways it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's less than ideal, put it that way. Like on paper and stuff in some ways. And but it's where I know, like, I don't know, there's just something in me that's saying this is where it's at for you next. Like this is where you're all the things that you're wanting to experience that you can't even form words around yet, like it's going to take place here.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just have to, I just trying to trust that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
be open to whatever that might look like.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because we've been talking about during my Bible study times the last few weeks that sometimes you have to go back to the beginning
Mm,
to get something new and something fresh and something that's going to take you to that next place. And I know for you and for me, it's also Idaho is kind of that beginning for us because that's kind of
mhm,
where we both began our journeys, as different as they are and how far away they went. But it's amazing to me that both of us are back kind of in that same space. You're moving there, and
mhm,
I'm been going back and forth for family. That's where
mm,
I went to reestablish my roots and to reestablish
mhm.
a foundation, and so that I could be my best for those next seasons that came up. So that's just a random thought that came to me while you were speaking. I'm like, oh my goodness, he's like back at that space, just in the beginning, just like I was before.
Mhm.
Hey y'all, it's me again, Bonnie Violet. I just wanted to take a second and thank my Patreon members. Patreon members are folks who contribute on a monthly basis anywhere from $3 to $150 a month to support the work of a queer chaplain. Big shout out to Victoria Thompson, Jason Brandt, Brandon Stanton, Kim Silva, Brandy McCarg, Randy Sandknopp, Bob Kaiser, Joey Heckmeister, Violet Rhiannon, Gabriel, Jonathan, Petrick, and Todd Atkins Whitley. Thank you so much for your continued contributions. And if you're interested in joining the Patreon, just check the link in the description. Go to patreon.com/Bonnie Violet. Thanks so much. Bye bye.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think it's of a space of um, I think it can feel like sometimes, I feel like a lot of my life has been about like, how can I like how can I help you and how can I help the world that I'm in and the community? And I feel like in a lot of my mind or a lot of my purpose has always been kind of about what can I bring to everyone else versus
Mhm.
like, and there's always have been some self-centeredness or like about that, but not that I was conscious of. And so I think one thing that feels a little bit different is that I'm eager and I'm excited for what I um am going to gain by being in
Yeah.
community with the folks here and kind of being home again. I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, I've had some experience that's different than here. And I think it could, in the past, it would be very easy for me to come back and think like, oh, I got some good skills. and I want to come show them how to do it. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
that's not what it's about.
Oh,
I,
that's
I, I
awesome.
know there's more for me to learn, um, but from being here. And the awesome thing I think about um, my understanding of God and spirituality is that I also have gifts and something to offer as well. So there's some mutuality in it. So I'm excited.
Absolutely.
I'm
That's
excited.
awesome. I always wonder if we have to go back to the beginning because the first time we were there, we missed something.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, because like you just explained so well that we're different. You've had some experiences, you've had some other seasons that you've walked through, you've have some baggage, good and bad. And now that's kind of positioned you so that when you go back, your whole perspective is different. Your whole
Hmm.
desire is different to be in that space. You want to experience that space and not necessarily completely change it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, it's like, and I think it's important to realize, I left here because I wanted to have a different and new experience that I didn't feel like I could have here. But
hmm
that was at the price of losing what experience I would gain from being here. And
yeah.
so it is about coming back to a space to experience more of, and I am just in a better place, I think, to receive
Yeah.
what what is here for me. And
I
maybe it was
agree.
here for me 20 years ago. But I think it's what's, you know what I mean? Like I think it's
Yeah.
meant for me now.
That's
So,
awesome. I'm excited for you. I'm so excited. I was
yeah.
so excited to see on Facebook that you were flying back to Idaho. I was like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
it felt so real, and I even didn't say it out loud too much because I was like, I don't, it just, because I've been wanting to land since July, and even if I'm honest, since last March. So it's taken me a little while to actually land somewhere because, I have wanted to have a little bit of discernment. I didn't want to be just anywhere. Um,
Right.
and so, getting to move in with a friend here who is also sober and trans and a drag artist, makes me feel safe. It also, I think it helps me feel, because I'm realizing how much of Idaho is still what it was to me when I left in my
Mm,
mind,
yeah.
and so there's still a lot of information for me. I have a lot of fear about just being here
Oh,
and
wow.
going outside and doing things. And I mean, there are people like me all over here and even more different than me, you know what I mean, who have been able to navigate spaces and be here and thrive. And I'm excited to kind of be at a space to tap into that and have that experience for myself as well.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. How about you? Tell us about some seasons in your life.
Um, I was teasing my husband the other day that he never know who he's waking up next to. I've
Mm-hmm.
had so many different seasons and changes in life. Um, I think I've shared some of the seasons that I've had, but for me, the seasons to me have been just as much spiritual as they have been tangible. And now, even a tangible shift can cause a different spiritual reaction
Mm-hmm.
for me. And I'm grateful for that because I want to be the best person that I can as long as I'm here. And I want to be the best person to the people around me also. So, I think I've shared before, my biggest change was when the business closed.
Mm-hmm.
I've had so many different hats. I've been a single mom. I've gone through a divorce that was pretty much all my fault. I've been blessed to remarry someone, so that was a whole new process after being divorced and going through that stuff. Work, entrepreneur, and all that stuff. But right now, I'm in this season. It's totally weird for me.
Mm-hmm.
People call me a senior. Oh my gosh.
Mm.
It's like, it's all fun and games. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm a senior. So no longer, people are asking me, so do you get a discount? Are you getting your senior discount? I'm like, oh yeah, I need to ask.
Right.
So that's weird for me. And I know that probably seems silly for people,
Not at all.
but I've never seen myself like that. And I've always had this preconceived idea as what seniors are. I think when we say senior, everyone has this vision that comes up in their head as to what a senior looks like, and I don't feel
Mm-hmm.
like I look like any of those pictures.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting for me to embrace, this. I just came off of a season where the business is gone. So I had to redefine myself at that point and decide, okay, what is my role here? I didn't realize until that moment, the spiritual part of that was that I had tied up my identity as to what I did for a living versus on who I actually was. And
Mm.
that was really hard for me. It
Yeah.
took me a long time. And I think I had shared previously that when people introduce themselves, they always ask, what do you do? And I didn't
Hmm.
know what to say because I like nothing, I don't do anything. I don't have a job anymore. So that was really hard for me. And so for me, that was a tangible as well as a spiritual change that I had to go through. But once I was able to embrace that change, the opportunities that came available to me, pretty incredible. Were pretty
Hmm.
incredible. And so I've been in that space for a few years, and now my season is shifting. I wouldn't even call it a major change, but it's shifting now from, okay, a space of being a homemaker, gardener, throwing myself into some of the things that I couldn't throw myself into when I was working all the time, to now
Hmm.
having another, I don't know, label. I don't know if label's a good word, or title maybe, of senior, because
Mm.
now I get to go to the senior center.
Oh.
Okay, so I know
Hmm.
you're thinking, okay, that's kind of lame, Aunt Tina, but
Not at all.
you would never say it out loud anyway, even if you thought that.
I don't. I'm
Okay.
happy. I'm happy for you. And I'm excited that you're
You don't
having
have to
these.
defend yourself. I'm just teasing you.
No, no, I know, but I'm like, I just want to say that, like, I mean, I think, I know that you are, from my point of view, you've always been somebody who's been super like ambitious and do, go, 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 achieve, 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 produce, 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 like, you know what I mean? Like all
Yeah,
these sorts of things, and not in a bad way. I understand that spirit because I'm that girl too.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and I think it's a lot of it's a lot of what we had to do in order to, to get out of where we came from. Um,
yeah.
and it's kind of the culture, right? It's kind of a lot of things, but so like I get that, but it's been great to kind of get to see you kind of reap some of the I guess some of the rewards, not the reward, but some of the fruits from being so ambitious all the time, but like the fruits gained from being in the stillness and to not be hustling and to not be go 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 in the same ways. And that's not to say that, like, you're still very active and you
Oh,
still
yeah,
do
I know.
like a lot of things,
Yeah,
but I think you know what I mean.
yeah, I
It
do.
was a
I
very
do.
different kind of shift, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's great to get to I think see that you can have a new experience.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And it's been interesting. I'm glad that I could recognize it, because when it's happened in the past, I had such a hard time transitioning. Wasn't able to let go and transition. This
mhm.
time, it's like, whew, bring it on. I'm going to the senior center. So, and you're right,
Mhm.
I'm not the sit around the house kind of person. So to be able to go down to the senior center, and I get to engage with new people. People here in Arizona are from everywhere.
Mm.
So in that space, I'm exposed to people from all over the world,
Yeah.
all over our country in particularly, and I get to share in those stories of other people's lives, and that's new for me.
Mhm.
At this level, I mean, these are like, no one's looking for a job, no one's trying to convince me of something, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
sell them anything. So this is like relationship, and it's amazing to me how each season, and I bet you're figuring this out also, I get to have different types of relationships, with a lot of different people, and it's really
Mhm.
incredible. So to be
Yeah.
able to go down there and to have a group of people, men and women, um, want to talk to me, that's pretty
Mhm.
cool. And
Yeah.
we do things together, and we celebrate one another. So, but it's interesting. I'm excited about it. So it's a
Yeah.
new space I'm getting into that I'm enjoying very much. And what's really even more incredible is some of the folks that I've known over the years that have seen me be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde over the years,
Mhm.
um, are able to join that space with me.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so it's been a change for all of us. So anyway,
Yeah. Well, and I feel like it's another channel for you to continue to. I know you've really wanted to try to find ways to expand your borders, and
Yeah.
kind of widen, those are your words. Like, I feel like my words are maybe like widen your lens, like your
Yeah.
worldview, kind of getting new perspectives on things. And I just feel like
Absolutely.
this is a whole nother um, place and space for that to happen for you.
I
Um,
agree.
and Charlie is saying, I need to figure out how to slow down and be still. I struggle with stillness. I think most people do. I think
I
it
agree.
is, I think it's challenging for humans. I think just in general to be still. I think that's why stillness is a spiritual practice and a
Yep.
time that often I think brings us closer to God and closer to ourselves and kind of can help hush all the whatever. But I feel like culturally, it's very countercultural to be still.
I agree with you.
We're told if we're still, we're lazy. We're told if we don't have the things in life or we're not like contributing at a certain level that we don't have any value and we don't have any worth. And that is not of God. God, that's grace. With God, we have grace, which means we don't have to earn our value and our worth. But we do live in a world that does expect us to do everything for anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really easy, and a lot of the things set us up to just have to do so much for so little,
Yeah.
which is not it's not good for any of us, and I think it makes life difficult in ways that I don't think it needs to be because I think it creates a level of scarcity. This idea, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that kind of is like this scarcity world when we know there is enough for everyone. Um,
You know, if I can just
yeah.
piggyback on that, um, talking about the spiritual aspect of seasons, that's one thing that my mindset changed. I don't know if you have experienced this, but being out in the world at whatever level, socially, work wise, whatever, it's a loud space. And that allowed space meaning that someone's always trying to put thoughts in my head. I'm always thinking about things. I'm always wondering about things, and there's things flashing all the time for our attention. And I think that goes to what you were talking about learning how to be still,
Mm,
and that can happen at any level. Being still in one space where you're only going to do certain things. You're going to leave time in your schedule for the unexpected. I mean, there's those things, and I think those are important things. Having time for yourself, I think that's very important. This new season that I've been in, I didn't realize that I have a lot of noise. Do you know what I mean by noise?
yeah.
I would say almost every other person I know likes to have background noise in the middle of their day, be it the
Yep.
television, be it the internet, be it the radio, whatever it is. They want background noise all the time, and I really felt challenged to get rid of the background noise. And I have to be honest, it was weird in the
Mm,
beginning, and I didn't realize how much influence that background noise, those things I wasn't listening to, was actually um, giving me the inability to think.
mm,
And so, one thing I've been learning to do, which I think has been helpful in this new space where I can receive all these people from everywhere else and learn to, I don't know, have grace, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it, has been my ability to be still in my mind as well as in my body.
mm,
Because I think both are very important. Learning how to
yeah.
be still in the physical is I think like the first step. And I'm learning how to be still in my mind and challenging myself to think. Okay, I'm going to just be
Mm,
quiet. I'm just going to think. I'm going to be in my head for a little bit. Now, once you're in there, you got to make sure you're thinking of good things.
mm,
You don't want to think about what so and so said about you last week, whatever, but thinking about good things like in my garden is the best place for me right lately to think. Thinking about what I'm planting, thinking about what I want my garden to look like, thinking about what I'd like to grow so that I can prepare food for our household. When I'm at the senior center, thinking about who would I like to meet, how
mm,
how would I like them to interact with me, how do I want to present myself in a way those are things that I think we don't always think of, or that we miss the opportunity to think about, or to think
mhm,
about the enrichment. Someone says something kind to you today. Oh, I really appreciate it. So, I don't know. I just feel like the less time I spend with that background noise and the more time I spend not only being still in my body, which is important, but also being still in my spirit and in my mind has been real helpful for me.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is the start of a new season for me spiritually as you're going through a new season
Mhm.
tangibly.
Yeah. Well, in stillness, I think oftentimes, I think like what you're talking about, it's like, and I don't know that it necessarily causes us, it just keeps us from often having those thoughts or connecting in that way with ourselves. And the thing that I think is powerful about stillness too is that you don't, it doesn't take a lot sometimes
Mhm.
to really create space for you to get some serenity or get some clarity or get some sort of peace, if you will,
Yeah.
from it. Like sometimes it literally can be like 20, 30 seconds, a minute, like and just like, going and sitting outside or just turning off everything or, because and I'm trying to feel it because I think part of that for me is a loneliness. I think there's a loneliness
Mhm.
that causes me to want to have things going all the time. But I've had to like I intentionally had like because I was noticing that as well, that I always have to have something on. Um, and I've made it now a rule, so to speak, that like I don't listen to anything when I'm in the shower.
Hmm.
Um, so like because normally I would like listen to music or maybe a podcast or something while I'm in the shower, and I was like, nope, this is a time that you're just going to be in the shower. And not, listening to anything else. So I've been, and even just that little bit has been helpful. So I
Yeah.
guess I want to encourage people that if they are thinking about, because I feel like it can be overwhelming to think about
Yeah.
stillness,
It
but
can
it
be.
doesn't, it doesn't just like getting changed just a little bit, and then, eventually, maybe it's more than just the shower and, that sort of thing too. But
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's good. Stillness is definitely, I think, something that a lot of people deal with. And isn't it funny how scary that can be?
mm, yeah,
Like you said, people receive it as loneliness. Um, I don't. It's, yeah. And it's different. Oh, I want to be the most productive for me. Being an entrepreneur. Oh, I have to be productive every second of every day. I don't want to waste my mind thinking on things that aren't going to move me in the direction I want to move. I think we get caught up in that during the seasons that we're going through.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's great wisdom. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Well, and I think that's kind of like my big desire right now is to be able to have some stillness. I think because
Mm,
there has been so much like movement in my life and uncertain movement and constant
mm,
movement, I think I have a strong desire for that stillness of just being able to be and not have to, because it takes a lot of energy to think about where you're going to be staying, talking with people about where you're going to be staying, negotiating like so many things. And it's like even if I'm never home, so to speak, I it's an option. You know what I mean? It doesn't
yeah,
it's like one thing I need to worry about. It's not like, oh, I need to figure out something. I feel like, oh, well, I can just go home, chill, be still,
yeah,
and and prepare for the next
yeah.
space that I'm going to be in or whatever. So,
And isn't it nice just to have a place where you can have the things that you enjoy around you? I have like favorite pictures. I have, little things I enjoy, like my favorite cup that I like to drink tea out of that makes me feel special. That
mhm.
kind of stuff. It's a good place to have them waiting for you is at home, I think.
Yeah, I definitely have an appreciation for that sort of stuff. It's been nice to not have those attachments in the
Right.
sense of having to pack them around or whatever, but
Yeah, yeah,
also, yeah, it is something to miss. And those are the kinds of things that ground us and that I think can help us remind us to be still or remind us to connect with where we're at in that moment because I think it's so easy to be taken out of everything, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's nice to have those sort of grounding um, things, whether it's a photo on the wall or it's a coffee cup that you use or it's a piece of clothing that you wear or whatever, those sorts of
yeah,
things. I was interviewing a drag artist last night and they're a gardener, which I know you have a love for
yeah.
gardening as well, but they were also talking about how a lot of other drag artists have given them plants for their
Mhm.
garden and stuff. And
Yep.
so
I have a lot of
it's
that
like,
stuff
oh, I
too.
got this dahlia from this burlesque performer and this plant from this drag artist. And so in some ways it's almost like, when they go out to their garden, it's like I'm communing with these people who
Yeah,
gifted me these things. And so yeah, there's definitely some, you know, um, there's something in that. Like I think sometimes we feel like we have to physically be with people in order to be with them and for them to be with
right.
us. And there's so many ways that we can um, experience or connect with, I think, others
I
without
agree.
having to physically be in the same space.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm grateful for the seasons that I've had in my life, even the ones that weren't so great, the ones that I screwed up or had bad experiences in, because I really feel like they have all been tools to move me to the places that I've needed to be, to the opportunities that I've been blessed to have, to the opportunities I still desire to have.
Hmm.
So I think understanding that we are in different seasons in our life as a whole so that we can work on the details, I think is really a good space to be in, to not expect it to be the same all the time.
Right, right. Yeah, I think there's some sort of probably some comfort in that too, because sometimes our seasons are uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Sometimes they're exhausting. Sometimes they're amazing but exhausting,
yeah, yeah.
Um, and so it's nice to know that it's not for forever. It's just for now. And yeah, so I'm really eager. I'm trying not to put too much stock and expectation,
Yeah, I get that.
especially in the specifics of like what I want to have now or what I want to experience. But you know what I mean? Like, because I think
Mhm.
you can get so to where
I
it's like a
definitely do.
letdown or a disappointment. Or sometimes I think we can push it into something that um,
It's not going to be good for us or profitable for us.
exactly, which are
Yeah,
not ultimately what we want. So I've really been trying
yeah.
to figure out, and I've only been here a couple of days, but
Oh, yeah.
really trying to discern what that is. Because there's also a part of me that just wants to like get a job and get some of those creature comforts that I didn't have. But I think part of that is really I need to really discern what did I learn? How can I, because I know I don't want to go back to living my life the way that I was before,
Hmm.
but I also know that the way I have been living my life is also not how I want to live my life anymore. And so figuring out how can I move forward in a way that hopefully has the goods of both, if you will,
Yeah, yeah.
and reaching toward a new way of existing that will hopefully feel just a little bit more satisfying and maintainable and sustainable.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is true. We need to be still and we
Hmm.
need to wait. We need to not try to make things happen so fast and to a certain specific specification. Because as much as we think we know, sometimes I don't think we always know what's best for us.
Mm,
Looking back over the seasons that I've had, there are some things that I would have chosen not to go through, but had I not gone through, I would not be the person that I am today.
right.
And as much as people want to dwell on some of those things and throw them in your face and tell you, but you used to, you know what? I received that, and I'm sad that you're stuck on that, but I've chosen not to be stuck on that anymore. And
Hmm.
I've taken that as a learning opportunity, and I've moved forward, and I've allowed my life to shift. And that's what we're doing when we allow a new season to come. That's when we find our peace, we find our joy, we find our ability to be still. It's when we try to hang on to those spaces that we're being moved out of. That's when we start to, I feel like, have more chaos,
Hmm.
be more self-destructive, require other people to make us happy, because those are all things that aren't healthy for us.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think understanding that our life does go through seasons. I mean, you don't want to stay the height of a 4-year old your whole life. You know what
No.
I mean? You want to grow up. And I think it's the same thing in our maturity, in our well-being, all those things. I think there's seasons. And as we move towards those, not dictating what they look like every time,
Yeah.
being a participant in that and doing the things that we need to do, but allowing ourselves the ability to be, I would say, led by God in that, and not saying it has to look this way or the highway, I think gives us so much peace.
Hmm. Yeah, indeed. And like, I think the challenge is, it's easy when like you have the seasons on the calendar and you're like, okay, and this isn't the way it is anymore, but okay, we're gonna have 3 months of spring. And
Yeah.
then once spring is done, we're going to change all the things that we do. We're going to change the clothes we wear. We're going to change what we do inside or
Yeah.
outside. Maybe there's new activities, holidays, things like that. And life isn't that even that is even seasons like that aren't
Right.
as
Right.
structured um, anymore as maybe they once were. So it's hard, it's challenging because
It
sometimes a
is.
season could be a month or a few weeks, and other times it could be maybe years or
Yeah.
many months, and so I think
So
sometimes
true.
that's the discernment or the challenge of like when is it time for like the next season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Oh, I'm
talking.
grateful that those seasons just kind of flow for me.
Yeah, I had an interview yesterday with on a podcast, and they were asking a lot of questions kind of about my journey and stuff, and they're like, well, it just seems like you took all these like gradual steps to get to where you are now.
Mhm.
And they're like, would you say that's what your experience was? And I was like, no. I'm like, I can see back now and see that, because if you think about like it's taken me 40 almost 44 years, to get to where I am, like in my transition, and to see things the way that I see them. And when I think about like just like I can label gay men, like all these sorts of things that how I saw myself, and it does seem like it all like makes sense, like
Mm.
step to step to step. I said, but
Yeah.
each of those steps were huge realizations. You know what I mean? They were like
Hmm. Hmm.
big, big things in that moment where it was like, oh yeah, cool, I'm gonna do this, or oh
I'm not.
darn, all these sorts of things. So I would say it didn't feel like little steps in the moment. It felt like
Yeah.
really huge and big dramatic moments. But I can look back and think, oh, it all makes sense. It all makes like these little steps that make sense to where I am today.
Yeah.
Would you say that's your experience, or?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I would say so. Some of those steps were higher than others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of them were definitely more difficult. And some of those steps, I actually needed someone to help me over them.
Mm,
So yeah, I've had that experience. I feel like as I've gotten more mature and have been able to recognize things, it's been easier for me to let go of some of that stuff that I want to
mm-hmm.
control. It's been easier for me to allow myself just a natural flow of things and not try to dictate it and say, at least, you know what, I'm just going to go here and see what happens. You can always adjust and self correct. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I have. And again, I think that some of that shift that it's not so hard has come with age, as much as I hate
I
to
was
say it.
gonna say, I was gonna say, does that come with seniorhood, with the classification of
Yeah,
being a senior?
I think
Like,
so. I will say that not all seniors have found
oh,
that flow
oh,
of transition. So,
that's
which is
that's what we
okay. That
call
gives me
that's
an
what we
opportunity.
call we call that a read in the drag world.
Okay.
You're reading
Uh, well, I'm not trying
folks.
to, I'm not imposing. I'm just making
I know, I know, I know.
observation. And I'm hoping that if I can build relationships with some of these people, and who knows, that maybe that'll be something that they can find peace in
Mm,
eventually.
yeah, yeah. And a read is usually meant to be more playful, than like it's not mean spirited.
Okay, I was
So
gonna say
so
I don't want to be mean to anybody, and
yeah, no, it's
I would never say anything to anybody. But when I read them, I'm like
yeah.
I pray for them. Like, okay, well, this person
Mhm.
was
A
really
lot of
nice. I'm so glad I
and
got to
that's
meet you.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about drag culture sometimes, is that it kind of like takes the sting out of some of the things, because oftentimes these are things that we know about
Mhm.
ourselves. And so when someone else can kind of like play with us about it in a way that's like, ah, I see you, I see that, and I'm gonna tell you about it, and that's okay, because it's, you know what I mean? Like it's not in
Yeah,
the sense of like
yeah,
wanting to like jab somebody or hurt somebody, but it's more about like, how it is when sometimes you can have traumatic experiences or really difficult experiences, and when you're with other people who've had those experiences. I hear this in recovery a lot where people will tell this horrible thing that they did or happened to them when they
Mm.
were out drinking or whatever, and everybody is laughing. And it's like, their dog died and their grandma lost her leg, and everyone is just laughing. You're not really, right?
Right,
But
right, right.
it's like you're laughing at it because you're like, oh my God, I totally understand that
Yeah. With what you're
because
talking about. Yeah.
exactly, because I've been there. And so Reed is in a lot of ways just kind of like pointing that out and being like,
Gotcha.
yeah, you know,
Gotcha.
yeah, yes, it's there. It creates these difficulties. Yes, it might even be a weakness or a challenge of ours, but like it's not that serious
Yeah.
in the grand
That's
scheme
cool.
of things.
That's cool.
Yeah, well, we are pretty much at our 45 minutes, and we didn't know what we were gonna do this episode. We did
I
just fine,
know.
I think.
I think so. I'm so grateful that our relationship has gotten to a point where we can just pretty much talk about whatever we feel like during the
Hmm.
day. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about that.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to continuing with this, and just in general, I'm putting it out into the world. Like I'm gonna be like I'm really wanting to cut some of the things out in my life again so that I can have a little bit more quality because I feel like I have been showing up to a lot again, but I really want to be able to like um just show up a little bit more and leave with a little bit more from each of the interactions and the experiences that I
Yeah.
that I that I've been having. So thank you for being a part of my journey and
Oh my
being
goodness.
there with me through all of this, you know?
I'm grateful. I sometimes wonder what we missed in those years
Mm,
that we were apart. For whatever reason, we allowed that to happen. But I'm just grateful that we found ourselves back together again, and that we both bring back different experiences that are very aligned.
hmm
People think we're so different just because we present ourselves different or we have a different core belief system. But when you and I talk, I feel like our seasons have been kind of aligned.
hmm
And we both had to learn how to recognize those seasons. We've both fought against changing of those seasons. We both had to redefine who we are based on the seasons that we're in and the growth that we're having personally. And so
hmm
for us to be able to come back together, our conversations, that's why I think we're not so different.
Yeah.
And if people could just get over that, I feel
hmm
like they could have an opportunity to reconnect with people that they love. I mean, we're family. And
Yeah.
to me, I don't think family is by accident. I know people say you can choose your friends you can choose as your family, but the other family you're stuck with. I've never felt stuck with any of my family members.
Mm,
I've chosen to treat them horribly or to have negative thoughts about them and to separate from them because I felt they offended me, and somehow I certainly have done my share of that. But at the end of the day, I'm so grateful that we are family, and I'm so
hmm
grateful that even when we came back together after all that time, that we are able to align and we have so much in common. And it's not
Yeah.
just because of family; it's just because we're human beings.
Right, right. Yeah, I
So,
think we're able to connect a lot of our sameness and not at the price of our difference either. It's not like we
yeah,
have to leave our differences out the door or
that's
pretend
right.
we're not.
That's right.
And we can still be in like really deep, meaningful relationship. And I think the cool thing too is like our differences can be shared with one another, not in a way to like the goal isn't to understand necessarily, but more to be able to have more compassion for one another and our experiences. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah,
don't think we'll
yeah,
ever fully understand,
yeah. I,
um,
I, I don't either. So
and that's okay.
yeah, it's totally okay. It's
Yeah, well, and I think it's helpful to know that too, because I do think
yeah,
sometimes it feels like it's like we have to understand why the person thinks the way they think or does the things they do so that we can form an opinion on, because that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, when you
yeah,
do that, then what? Then you get to say like, no, I don't, or like, no, like,
yeah,
yeah. So it's really interesting to me. Maybe that's
yeah,
for another podcast, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, so all right, I'm gonna say sign off, and then I'm gonna let you close us out. Okay.
okay.
All right, you guys, thanks so much for being a part of our conversation today. I just want to encourage you to embrace your seasons. Oh my goodness, you're going to have them. Just realize that's coming at you. Learn to be still and embrace every season that comes your way.
All right. And until the next time, whether you join us live next week, same time, same place, or you're listening to us on a podcast, as always, we love to hear from you and we love to engage with you. Take care. Have a great week. Love you
Bye,
all.
everybody.
Bye bye. These darn outros. Splintered Grace podcast is brought to you by a queer chaplain. Follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at a queer chaplain. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, comment, like, and share. Feel free to tip us at Venmo, Bonnie Violet, and support monthly on Patreon. The song is original by Stephen Sandknopp, The Chasm Between Us. Rest in peace, Stephen.
Hey, how's it going? Bonnie Violet here. I'm a trans femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, and digital chaplain. And in case you didn't know, I could really use your support. Engage, rate, subscribe, follow, comment, share this episode, book me to keynote, panel, guest on your show, or officiate your wedding or memorial, in or out of drag, collaborate, join the team, be a guest, make a pitch, sponsor an episode, join my Patreon, send me a tip on Venmo or PayPal. Just do something. Thank you so much for your continued support. Check out the links in the description.